Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into something, well, it's a pretty bold idea. We're talking about a plan to fix one of the biggest, most stubborn environmental problems in the entire United States.
So, let's just jump right in. The core question is this: what if you could take the money from a trade war and use it to fix a massive environmental disaster? It sounds kind of wild, right? Connecting a dying ecosystem with the billions of dollars coming in from federal tariffs.
So you've got these two things happening at the same time. Over here, you have this recurring dead zone in the Gulf of America. We're talking about a patch of ocean sometimes bigger than Connecticut, where basically nothing can survive. And then over here, you've got this enormous pile of cash, over $195 billion a year, just pouring into the federal government from tariffs.
All right, so first, let's really get a handle on just how mismatched the problem and the current solution really are.
Okay, so check this out. The scale of what's being proposed here is, well, it's kind of mind-blowing. Right now, the federal government spends about $12 million a year trying to fix this. The source material for this plan actually calls that lunch money. Now, this new plan, it would take just a tiny sliver of that tariff revenue and turn it into over $1.5 billion a year. That's not just double or triple, that's more than 100 times the current funding. A huge jump.
So how do you make a leap that big happen? Well, it all comes down to a really powerful and kind of clever political idea: changing how we think about what tariffs are even for.
You see, the core concept here is to stop all that tariff money from just vanishing into, the giant black hole of the general budget. The idea is to make a direct, visible connection. So every time a shipping container from overseas gets taxed at a port, a little piece of that money goes directly to a farmer or a fisherman or a project to clean up the Mississippi River.
And this rebranding is absolutely key. It's all about making that link crystal clear in everyone's minds. It transforms tariffs from just another tax into what they're calling a national repair tax. Suddenly, that fee on an imported TV isn't just money going to the government. It's an investment in healing the American landscape. Okay, so that's the big idea, but how do you actually make it happen? I mean, you can't just snap your fingers and redirect billions of dollars. You need to build the financial plumbing to make it all work.
Right, so here's the first hurdle. By default, all tariff money goes straight into the U.S. Treasury. So step one, and this is a big one, you have to pass a new law. This law would create a dedicated trust fund. Think of it like a lockbox. It legally earmarks that tiny slice, like 0.5% to 1% of tariff money, and puts it in the lockbox before it can get caught up in the yearly budget fights in Washington. This is what gives the plan stable, long-term funding.
And here's where it gets really smart. The plan doesn't just spend that money. It uses it as a lever to pull in even more money from private investors. This is called credit enhancement. Basically, the government uses that guaranteed stream of tariff money to co-sign on state-level green bonds. It's like having Uncle Sam co-sign your mortgage. Suddenly, the big banks are way more willing to lend you billions for your project because it's seen as a super safe bet.
Okay, so let's say the money is secure. The financial plumbing is built. Now what? Well, now we get to the massive engineering challenge: treating the entire Mississippi watershed, from the soil to the sea, as one single, connected system that needs to be fixed. The whole strategy is kind of like a complex medical procedure. It has two main parts. First, you go way upstream to the source of the problem, all that nutrient runoff from farms. The plan is to use things like biochar, which is this really cool super porous charcoal, to help the soil trap those nutrients before they ever get into the rivers. So that's stopping the bleeding, right? Then, at the same time, you go downstream to the Gulf Coast and perform reconstructive surgery, physically rebuilding over 1,000 square miles of wetlands and barrier islands that act as the Gulf's natural defense. And the main goal? It's huge, but it's simple. Cut the average size of the Gulf's dead zone in half by 2035.
But here's the thing. This isn't just about the environment. It's also being pitched as a massive jobs program. All that engineering, the new farming techniques, the marine science, it's projected to create more than 200,000 job years. These are jobs in coastal communities and in the heartland, all focused on this one restoration project.
Okay, this all sounds really ambitious, right? And you might be thinking, we've heard about big plans like this before. How is this one any different? How does it survive when politics change or the economy gets shaky?
Well, it's actually designed with those exact risks in mind. It has two big safeguards built right in. First, to protect it from political whiplash, there's a diverse governing board, And any big decisions, like canceling a project, would require a supermajority vote. So one new administration can't just come in and tear it all down. Second, to protect against money problems, it doesn't rely only on tariffs. It uses a diversified capital stack, which is just a fancy way of saying it has multiple sources of money, blending the tariff revenue with bonds and private investment. Kind of like how a university endowment works, so it's not vulnerable to one single point of failure.
And what about accountability? How do you make sure the money is actually working? Well, it's split into two jobs. You've got the auditor. That's an independent science panel with folks from NOAA and other top institutions. Their only job is to provide the hard data, the cold, hard facts on what's working and what isn't. Then you have the enforcer. That's a powerful board made up of federal, state, and tribal leaders. They take the data from the auditors, and they have the power to act. They can approve projects, and more importantly, they can cut the funding to any project that isn't getting results.
So when you boil it all down, this whole plan leaves us with a really big, fascinating question. Can we take a tool that's usually used for trade conflicts and turn it into a tool for national repair? Could this be a new blueprint for how America funds and fixes its largest-scale environmental challenges? It's a pretty powerful idea to think about.